You're listening to
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
At the end of regulation, Tatum missed it. He's got the ball now. 10 seconds left in overtime. Abaji defense. Brown pushed down by Mitchell, no foul. Tatum's got to go in a hurry. He pulls up. Yes!
Another episode of the Hot Foul Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Quigley, with my brother Mike. And Mike, the Celtics needed all 53 minutes to beat the lowly. Who the hell did they even play again?
They beat the Toronto Raptors.
With Jason Tatum hitting a three-point on a broken play. Any thoughts you want to give on that game before we get into Cleveland?
The refs missed the call. He traveled.
Yeah, he traveled, and Jaylen Brown was fouled.
Yeah.
Before the travel. He was clearly fouled. But it's good they didn't call it because that game didn't need 5 more minutes.
I will say it was an entertaining game. I know that you weren't as concerned as I was with the Celtics defense, but another team comes into the Garden, scores over 60 points in the paint, and shoots over 50% from the field. It's becoming a trend, and not a good one, in my opinion, with the Celtics. I think their defensive intensity definitely picked up in the fourth quarter, and Tatum made some huge plays, especially picking up Pirtle in one possession. But I'm not psyched about what I see. Their inability to blow teams out and extend leads, and then really their inability to make stops consecutively because they can't defend. They can't defend off the dribble, and they can't stop people from getting in the paint and scoring. And it's just the reality of it that we've seen for quite a while now, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're 10th in defensive rating where they were second last year. I think there's a couple things going on. I think there is there isn't the complete focus on that end that you saw last season from a team that was out to prove something. And obviously they did. And then I do think there's issues on the interior for this team. And ball pressure could be better at times. You're right there. And I think that has to do with the can-do, want-to aspect of it, of doing it all the time. I think there is a little bit of a coast going on here. But I think on top of that, I do think there is probably guys trying to do a little bit too much, expecting that they need to help more, because I think they have issues. When Cade is in there, he has his limitations. I thought he had another rough night, if I'm being perfectly honest, against Toronto, especially on the defensive end, where he was picked on quite a bit, and he also just shows the inability at times to, switch properly. When we're still talking about like overextending on things. There's other times where he's great, where he's staying in front of the ball and he's one-on-one, and it's really, you can see the raw ability and what the Celtics see and what they want him to figure out. Cornette's a little bit better, but he isn't a naturally great defender or rim protector, but he's a little better. And Al, he's getting older. He was certainly awesome, on the offensive end against the Raptors on Saturday night. But they are struggling in the interior for sure. And, you talk about 60 points in the paint. I think even more alarming than that is what teams are shooting percentage-wise, which is really high against the Celtics inside. And now they're going up against a team in Cleveland that, finishes well as anybody inside the paint. So, the only plus side you can draw from that, and I do think this is a plus, is that, they've done a decent job of limiting the 3-point shot. In today's NBA, that usually equates to, success, but at the same time, teams are staying in it, by attacking them inside. So the points in the paint and the offensive rebounds that teams are getting are alarming. And the offensive rebounding, that's a case of kind of, what you have out there personnel wise a little bit, but it's more of a case that you're consistently in rotation and you're having guys like Jakob Pertl or other bigs basically having to be boxed out by your guards, or they're getting free runs at the rim because you are now running out at a shooter. So, or you're trying to stop a layup in the paint. So those are the things that I think are. I think you're right. I don't think they're super at all. And I think I have bad news on this aspect. I don't know how much it's going to get better in most games. I don't know if the want to is going to get there like it was last season. And so the question becomes, and I think tonight is going to be a pretty good barometer of a test for this, is how much can this team, this 24-25 basketball team, turn it on when they need to? Is this a instance like the 17-18 Warriors, who weren't as good as the 16-17 Warriors on defense, but when they really had to, they were the best in the league, and could flip that switch whenever they wanted. So, I think tonight could either be a wake-up call for the Celtics because they show that they can't do it, or maybe it's kind of a wake-up call for the rest of the league that, oh shit, yeah, these guys might coast against the Raptors, but when the chips are on the table, they're going to come to play.
Yeah, I hope they come to play, obviously. And I know the rim protection with Cornette hasn't been great either, which is surprising because if you look back to last season, when he was in the game, the rim protection was actually really good. Mm-hmm. And that was one of his big strengths last year. And it's been completely gone with him on the floor this year, which I don't understand. The only thing I can put it up to is that there's a lack of focus from the top, and it's trickling down to guys who are less skilled, and they can't afford to be less focused because they're not as good as the other players on the team, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you even go back to the Miami series last year. He came in the game and he shut down Bam Adebayo. So I think the ability's there, even with Porzingis out. Cade has obviously got a lot to learn. But we've seen it from Cornette. So I think you're right about a little bit of a lack of focus, and it's trickling down through the whole team. And there were good things in the Toronto game. There were really good things. The Celtics were playing really well on offense. They were just missing a ton of open looks. So Jason Tatum probably could have had 20 assists, right? With the way the ball was moving. And I do think in the fourth quarter and in overtime, I thought I saw a different level of intensity on the defensive end. And I thought it made a difference. It was just the Celtics couldn't separate themselves because they were having difficulty making shots. Did you see the same thing there, too, that it actually picked up in the fourth quarter?
Well, I thought it did a little bit, and I thought Toronto made some tough shots in that fourth quarter, And
RJ Barrett was playing really, really well.
So the Celtics, they gave up, what did they give up? 54 points in the first half, and then they gave up 60 in the second, which, 60 is not a great number. It's also, in today's NBA, not the end of the world.
But they came out in that third quarter. They weren't playing.
Yeah, and I think, it's funny how things work, though. The Celtics in the first half couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. And they must have had 10 to 15 just, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. Let's just say 10 open looks. They even missed like a Keita putback layup that did the toilet bowl roll and came on out. So
that happens once a game.
Yeah, could this defense have been better? Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they went up 2 at halftime. They could have easily been up 20. It's just one of those weird. And then how do we look at the game when the Raptors have 50 points at halftime and you're somewhere around 70? We're probably looking at it a little bit differently. So But when the shots go in, maybe that hides some of your bad stuff too, right? Maybe it covers up the things that you aren't doing as well that we're not paying attention to as viewers, and so those things get exposed more when those shots aren't going in, and it's shining daylight on where you have issues. So I do think there's things going on here. You brought up Miami last season. I thought that was more of a matchup, where Al was just a bad matchup. Cater and Cornette figured out you could play off of Bam a little bit and be able to block his shot. And the Indiana game, I think honestly you saw a lot of what teams are doing against the Celtics now in the Indiana series last year when there was no Porzingis, where teams were trying to beat the Celtics off the dribble as much as they could, with multiple drives, and multiple screen and rolls, and just knowing they could get to the paint and had a higher percentage to finish without Kristaps Porzingis being in the game. And knowing that the Celtics were a little bit more limited on the other side. And fortunately for the Celtics in the finals, they played a team that, built everything with isolation and slowing it down, which fed right into their type of defenders they have on the perimeter. Tonight, let's get right into it. I think tonight is going to stress the Celtics defense. They don't play like the Mavericks did. If this was a season ago, I would have told you this was a team that plays like the Mavericks did. But they move the ball a lot better now. They have multiple guys that put the ball to the deck. They have multiple shooters, and they have guys that can finish at the rim. I think they're playing above their talent level through the first 15 games or whatever it's been. But it's going to be a great test. And I think even with all the deficiencies we're talking about on defense, I still think the Celtics are a better team with the roster they have, even without Kristaps Porzingis. But it becomes a question of, are they going to show it? Are they going to show it tonight? And it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great game early in the season. It's great for the league. It's great for everybody. I think it should be, a lot of fun. What are your thoughts on going into tonight, Mike?
First, the Celtics can't afford to get off to a slow start again, because Cleveland gets out to really hot starts. And so the efficiency on offense is going to be there, the focus from the jump. We've seen the Celtics in the past when they're focused, what that offense can look like from the very start of a game. And then obviously one of the Celtics' strengths is defending the three-point line, and that could really help them against Cleveland tonight, because Cleveland depends a lot on that three. They shoot maybe second most in the NBA as far as takes go, but I think they're making the most right now in the league, and at an efficient rate. They hit another 20 threes the other night against Charlotte, and I don't think they even shot 50 attempts. So that's an important factor. And then the other factor with Cleveland is, if they're going to take a lot of threes, it's really important that you're stressing cleaning up the defensive glass. Some of the long rebounds you're not going to be able to control, and that's just the way it goes in the NBA with all these threes being shot. But there is an opportunity against a team that shoots a lot of threes to get that defensive rebound and run, because they're going to be a little bit slow to get back if they're missing. So I look for the Celtics to run tonight off of misses, and I look for the Celtics to stay close on the glass. You don't have to win the rebounding numbers to win the game, but just stay close. And then on offense, to be more efficient. What we saw in that Toronto game, getting open looks, just obviously making the shots, but really get out and run. I think you can get out and run against Cleveland like you can against any team that puts up a lot of threes. Your advantage is getting out and running against them.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I think I'm watching a couple of things. First, offensively, how are they going to stress Cleveland? And they have opportunities to do this. Right. Both Mitchell and Garland, they should be able to take advantage of. Mitchell's stronger, obviously, and a little bit bigger, but he doesn't really match up well against the Celtics wings at all. Garland, I think every Celtics offensive player is going to have an advantage over him on that end. And I don't think Cleveland's really been stressed like that outside of about a quarter in the Chicago game a week ago, when Garland's on the floor. And the Celtics, when they're at their best, that lasts 48 minutes, where it doesn't mean they're posting him up on every possible possession or they're putting him in drives, but he'll be in action all the time. They'll be screening him, they'll be calling things out, and it will lead to other guys getting open threes because where help is coming from, it lead to offensive rebounds because now the Cavs are in rotation. So that's what I'm going to look for here is, are they going to treat this like the game we think they're going to treat it like, and have that killer whale offense that they talk about, where they find the weakest link and they attack it. On the defensive side, let's start seeing these switches be really crisp. And, almost the Celtics, with the nonverbal communication of just knowing where to be at all times. I mean, that was so great about the Dallas series last year is they were just awesome, when they had to scramble or when they had to go on switches. They just knew exactly what they had to do. So that's number one, really good, crisp switches. So even when you're in a mismatch, you're at least there in a strong position to defend it. Strong closeouts, right? Look, if Cleveland comes in and makes 25 threes and you lose, I want to go on the pod the next day and just tip my hat to them, and say the Celtics, they closed out without fouling, and, this was a Dean Wade heater game. I know he's not playing like we had last season, and sometimes these things happen in the course of the NBA. NBA players can make contested shots. They can find an open man off a good defense. It just happens. They're so skilled, and sometimes you have games like that. But I want to see really good, crisp closeouts. Everything kind of an NBA contest. Not a lot of wide open looks. Not a lot of soft closeouts on these guys, and closeouts with the ability, like they have in the past, that they can close where they don't overextend on it. If the guy decides to put it on the deck, they can at least give there and make it somewhat difficult. And then much better job on the glass, and that's going to have a lot to do with the two things I just talked about. Are they switching crisply? Are they limiting good threes? Because if they're doing those things, they should have a lot of opportunities to, put bodies on people and get defensive rebounds. Now, that said, look, we're starting the game and they got Jared Allen and Evan Mobley out there, and you've got Al Horford and Tatum. Sometimes size, can't be defended. Yeah, there was a great instance of that in the last game where I think Pritchard was boxing out Boucher for Toronto. And like, what difference does it make if Pritchard's boxing him out, right? He just jumps and gets the ball. So those things happen, but that's fine if those type of rebounds happen. You can kind of live with that. And then the Celtics rotations. And what's been, we're talking about their poor defense a little bit. And I think poor is probably strong. I mean, they're still ranked 10th in the league, so they're still in the top third. But one area we thought they could make up for this a little bit, and maybe it hurts them on the glass somewhat, but they'd be in better rotations, where Tillman has not played, but he has a history in this league of being a plus defender. There's a track record here that honestly Cater and Cornette do not have, of being plus defenders. And he showed that ability to do that in the playoffs last year, where he can go out on guards, he can go out on bigger guys. Do we see some of that tonight? Does he get dusted off in this game at all if the Celtics rotations are out of whack and Cater just really isn't up to snuff in a big time national spotlight game? That to me is interesting because he can defend screen and rolls, when they put Garland and Mitchell in action, and at least make it somewhat difficult for those guys. I'm not going to say he's going to stop them or those guys won't score, but he'll stress them at least. And, he does a good job on size too. So even though, Mobley is a lot bigger than him height-wise. I think, Tillman has shown the ability in this league to make that up with strength. Obviously, the minus with him is he really offensively has not been good when he's been given the opportunity. But do you live with that a little bit? Because I got to tell you, in a lot of games, Cater hasn't really given you anything offensively either. There's times where teams aren't even guarding him, and he's not getting to the dunker spot. He's not making them pay with good screens. So it's been curious to me. You've brought up before that, Brian Robb has said that he's hurt. But this would be another good opportunity to get Tillman minutes against a team that, he probably matches up better against than some of your other bigs. At least that's what we would have thought going into the season. So those are kind of things I'm looking for, and it's just exciting, Mike. I know it's a cup game or whatever, but to have a team that's coming in undefeated, a game like this in November, I think it makes it a lot more fun for a Tuesday night than you usually have. It should be great. It should be a great crowd. It should just be a great environment. It's too bad the court's going to look stupid, but beyond that, it's going to be great.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I hope they play Tillman. I think it would make sense to play Tillman tonight, but I don't know if he's in the doghouse and how he gets out of that. We'll see. This would be a good opportunity tonight against a really efficient offensive team where you're going to have to make stops, especially when you stop making shots. You're going to have to be able to dig in. That'll be the difference in this game. I think it's going to be who makes stops. It's going to be who's defending at a high level can be the difference, unless the Celtics are playing, out of this world and, they take care of things early. But I expect this to be close and, defense will win the day. So I'm looking forward to the game too. I think it's a really good test for the Celtics. It's obviously a big game for Cleveland, looking to extend this historic winning streak. By the way, Jim, do you know the most wins to start a season? It's 24. So Cleveland's got 10 more to go.
Yeah, it's a lot of games to go. I saw that. They're not really close.
And I think that team that won 24, didn't they not win the championship, or am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I thought it was Golden State. Am I wrong?
Oh, Golden State started 24 now.
I know. I thought. I could be wrong. I'll look it up.
Wow.
But it's a long way to go. And I think the bigger thing is this becomes a big game with the number one seed. Is a thing for the Celtics. That's something that's important to them. And again, I don't know what their priorities are coming off a championship in instances like this, but the one seed was definitely important to them last year. And look, even tonight, you go into this now and you'll be 12-4. Is that what they would be with the loss, Mike? Do I have that
11.
right? 11-4, and Cleveland would be 15-0, and so
16. Yeah, 16.
So you'd be digging yourself a hole, and all of a sudden, Cleveland to get to 60 wins, they just need 44 more, and the hill gets a lot steeper for you. So I think getting this one, if that is important to you, matters. But we'll I guess we'll have to see. Well, I looked this up, Mike. What is your prediction for tonight?
I have a feeling that it's going to be a tough one for the Celtics to win with the way Cleveland's shooting the ball right now. I think Cleveland's going to win tonight.
You do, huh? Do you think it's going to be close?
I do think it's going to be close, but I just think that I don't know if even great defense makes that big of a difference when a team's shooting the ball this well. And like I said, we've seen this with the Celtics before when they're hitting threes at this scale, and it doesn't make a difference what other teams do. And quite frankly, the Celtics haven't been shooting the ball great, so that concerns me right now. They seem like they've been in a little bit of a funk shooting-wise, and I just think that could be the difference tonight. I think that that Cleveland's just been out of this world to start the season, and until they until they level out, I don't know who's going to beat them.
So the longest winning streak to start the season was the Warriors, the 15-16 Warriors. They won 24 games in a row. The longest NBA win streak ever is an amazing amount, 33 by the 71-72 Celtics. Holy crap. Imagine winning 33 games in a row.
That's a lot of games.
That's insane. I think I said it on the last part, I think the Celtics are going to win this game. The reason I'm doing this is I think this is a game that matters. I think they're going to treat this as a game that matters to them. And I think both teams are going to be supremely focused. I know Cleveland's going really well. It's not like the Celtics are going bad. And I think this is another level they can get to, obviously. You just go back to talent. I think the Celtics have much more of it. So I think at the end of the day, this game being home, the Celtics actually having something to play for. It's a cup game, but whatever there. I just think there's going to be a focus here, and they're going to want to kind of show Cleveland that not a lot has changed in the hierarchy of the NBA and certainly the Eastern Conference. So I think the Celtics going to be dialed in, and I think they're going to get a win here. And, it's also just playing the odds a little bit. Cleveland can't win forever. So, and there's been games recently where they've kind of effed around with teams that don't have as much talent as them. And we're kind of fortunate to hold on to wins. So yeah. I do think this is going to be a Celtics win. I'm not sure it's going to be coming down to the last possession like it did against Toronto either. So that's just my feeling on it. But obviously, the proof will be in the pudding tonight. Mike, any other thoughts around the league or with the Celtics before we want to close this thing down?
See Joel Embiid last night? Looked great, didn't he?
I did not watch a game last night. I had work
blew
stuff.
A 20-point lead in 12 minutes.
I know they lost,
And then they lost by about 20. And Joel Embiid didn't shoot a free throw. It's the first time he didn't shoot a free throw since 2018.
Was he sick?
According to ESPN, he was sick and he was doubtful to play.
Yeah. They're in a bad way over there, and we've talked about that a bunch on this pod. By the way, the line for the game tonight is the Celtics -5. But they're in just a really bad way.
Nice. It's awesome. I love it.
That we talked about how easy it is for now Cleveland to position themselves for that top seed, or at the very least, they're not going to do worse than the 2 seed. It's a climb now for Philadelphia to do anything other than be a play-in team. And so you wonder if this thing is just going to completely combust. You wonder if Nick Nurse is the right guy for a team with this many superstars and things not going well. It's a train wreck. And it's like one of those games where you want to just kind of one of those teams where you just want to watch right now because the crash is so bad. It's really, really bad. And the team they played, Miami, they're having a Miami season when you look at the last 3 seasons, where they haven't put together 2 good games in a row or 2 bad games in a row really all season. They're another going on another 500 year of Jimmy Butler missing games and sometimes playing games, and them consistently not able to put together 2 wins in a row or multiple games in a row. So they're another team that seems destined to be in the play-in tournament over again. I'm sure they'll play the Celtics tough whenever they play them because that's what always happens. But it's looking like another Miami Heat season down there as well.
Yeah, well, there's another team in Florida that's not Miami that over the last 6 games, and 3 of them, they've held teams under 100 points, and they're winning without Pablo, and that's Orlando. They're big, they're physical, They move the ball well. They find a way offensively. Franz Wagner was NBA Player of the Week last week. They went into Phoenix last night and got a win. They're a team that I think has been really overachieving without their superstar, and I think it's going to be a really tough out in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, no, they're a lot of fun.
I think Boston actually matches up okay with them, but other teams, I think they could give some other teams some problems.
Yeah, no, they're a tough team. I mean, they gave Cleveland all they could take last season in the playoffs.
Sure did. Yep.
And they, what was great about the win for them last night is they've been an interesting team and where they win at home all the time and can't seem to win on the road. Like there was a weird like trend going on here where it was something like 24 of the last 25 games the home team won when it came to the Magic. So it's so that was a real, when you talk about a nice win for them, that was probably the best win of the season last night, considering that it was out west, it wasn't on their home court, because they look like a team that can beat anybody at home. They've just been a different team there. So last night, really nice win, and Wagner has been really good for them. They get some pretty good guards that can put the ball to the deck. Suggs has become a better offensive player than I ever thought he was going to be. He's not a top 3 NBA pick like he got drafted, but he's been really, really solid, and he's been a much better offensive player than I thought he would be. And they great size in the interior, good defensively, strong big guys. Yeah, I'm with you. I think and that would actually be a fun matchup in the playoffs if they matched up against the Cavs. Again, I think they would give the Cavs. I think the Cavs would win again, but I think it would be another long series where they give the Cavs all they could handle. It's really too bad. Really too bad Pablo is hurt, because they feel like a team that's ready to take a step, and he felt like a guy that was ready to take a massive step before he got hurt. He was someone to watch, and that's really, that's one of the real disappointing injuries of this NBA season so far. Any other thoughts before we close, Mike? Your Houston Rockets continue to cook.
Well, last night,
the best defensive teams in the league. We talked about the Celtics lack of defense. The Rockets, man, have they been awesome?
Well, last night they couldn't catch an inbound pass, but Ime drew up the perfect play against Milwaukee, and they just botched it. Milwaukee got lucky to win that game last night. But Jim, I got to get off. So go Celtics! Big game tonight.
All right, we'll see you soon.